Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, I'm Ed DeVeaux. I'm the president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association, the state's first and largest trade association for the development of a responsible, sustainable, diverse, and profitable cannabis industry here in the state. I'd like to recognize today's sponsors. We have Burton, Trent Public Affairs, the law firm of Inglesino, Webster, Wyciskala, and Taylor, Curaleaf, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, Eaze Direct, welcome Eaze Direct to the sponsorship list, HBK CPAs, Argus 365 Security, Eaze, the UFCW in Hugh Giordano, and Garden State Greenhouse. Welcome everyone to the return of our Lunch and Learn. I trust everyone had a happy and healthy summer. We took the month of August to let everyone try and enjoy as much as they could. I actually tried to enjoy some, and I did. So I want to thank you all for your support. I want to welcome our new members. Maureen Fairley, I saw you in the chat. I want to welcome you, my longtime friend and colleague. I want to welcome everyone once again to the return of our Lunch and Learn, where we have opportunities to speak with our major corporate members, as well as some special guests who bring great perspective to the cannabis industry. Today is no exception with respect to those special guests. Joining me today is someone that I've met a couple of years ago. Just so impressive as a person, as a human being, a fantastic individual. We have this great relationship, so I think. So right now, what I'd like to do is introduce to you all Mr. Dominique Easley. Dominique, how are you?
How you doing? How you doing? I appreciate you, man. Definitely, that stands to be true. We have a wonderful relationship. I appreciate you for having me on.
Wow, man, thank you so much. You know, look, I get still infatuated with people's success stories, and you have a success story on many levels, and much of it lends itself to your involvement in the cannabis industry in terms of cannabis advocacy. So let's take it from the beginning as to who Dominique Easley is, and so. There you are, born in Staten Island, high school football standout, and tell us some more from there.
So went to Curtis High School, C-Dub. From there, I became, like you said, a standout to the football community of the world. Went to University of Florida. From University of Florida, had the opportunity to get drafted in the first round to the New England Patriots, where I won a Super Bowl. I appreciate it. And then I had, unfortunately, the opportunity of losing to the Patriots in the Super Bowl when I played for the Rams. So that's pretty much my football career. Started in high school and then ended about going on 3 years now.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting. Here you are on top of the world. A lot of us, we look at success stories like yours and we say, you know, they've got it all, right? You've got it all going on. Here you are, young, smart, have this ability that when you look at the pyramid, and as we talk to high school students, we tell them, look, the pyramid, right? To get to that top part of the pyramid, you've really got to be great, right? The base of the pyramid are 1 million kids. To get to where you were, you had to be the 1 in 10, right? The 1 in 1 million. And so you're at the top of the world, top of your game, and then something happens. Injury.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And then tell us about that.
Yeah. So went to the University of Florida, had a rough first year just being away from home. And then going into my second year was doing awesome, doing great, felt like myself. And then the last game is when I tore my ACL against Florida State. And that was my first, I say, major injury other than me breaking my tibia in the 3rd grade. And that's where the opioid abuse kind of started. Being that I had to work through pain, I didn't want to lose my spot. I didn't want everyone to think that I wasn't capable of coming back. So just started making sure that I wasn't feeling the pain, and it kind of took over, definitely kind of took over. From there, started really abusing opioids from about 2012 to all the way to 2016, I'll definitely say. And it just kept getting worse, like no one was telling me not to take them. Everyone was telling me to take them, so that was the caveat there. From tearing my ACL from my sophomore year, going into my senior year, it's crazy because I literally remember this day. I was projected to be the first overall pick, and then I tore my ACL again after the 3rd game of my senior year, and that's devastating going into the draft, not knowing what was going to happen, me coming back, and then just continued on. From there, decided it was best for me to just move on and continue training and getting healthy to get ready for the draft. That's when the opioid abuse really got pretty bad, trying to basically be ready for camp. And unfortunately ran into a situation where I got into a dog had bit me, and I was out for almost all of camp going into my rookie year into the Patriots, because it took about 7 months to heal and just kept getting worse, and really started abusing the opioids because I didn't want to be the injured guy, the I guess the bust in a sense, So that really took a toll on me. Had this when I only had one son by now, Dominique Easley II, Deuce. So going into that, I didn't want to disappoint my family, disappoint my son, and disappoint myself as well. So my whole thought process was just to stay on the field.
Yeah. So now, because a lot of us don't have this experience, right? We, at least not in the sense of where you are. So in my mind, at the top of your game, top of the world, you get an injury. There's no shortage of opioids that's made available to you. Mm-hmm. And then you get hooked. And now a couple of things are happening in my mind. Number one, you're hiding the abuse.
Yep.
Or, right, assuming you don't want people to know that it's going on, and yet you're doing it because you don't want to be the guy on the bench. You don't want to miss the draft. So there's this mental pressure going on, right? And you're putting it on yourself, and we as fans are putting it on you, right? It's almost like, tell me if this is too far-fetched, kind of like the gladiator syndrome, right? Where we're sitting in the stands and we're yelling and screaming, but we have no idea the pain that you're going through, either physically or mentally.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it, people think it's more physically, but it's more mentally that I had to realize about a year ago in my lifetime,
So, and I heard that. Do you put the pressure on yourself because it was, I don't want to disappoint the fans. I don't want to disappoint my family. That's huge.
Yep.
And so you're doing things that you can't even reason it away, right? Because it's helping you get to where you need to be.
Exactly. And not even noticing that I'm doing these things, that I'm sabotaging myself.
So now you get to this point, career, addiction. Was there a turning point where you just said, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, definitely. It was I'm definitely an extremist. So I stop on a dime, or I'll put my all into it. It was a point where I woke up in the middle of the night screaming for pain pills because I was in so much pain. I was about 23 at this time. screaming for pain pills because I was in pain, waking up out of my sleep. And like I fell off the bed trying to look for it. And right then and there, when I'm on the floor, on the bed, in the dark by myself, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't keep killing myself. You know, like I've seen where this go with different drugs. So I can't allow myself to become one of these statistics.
So growing up, I'm assuming just like many of us, we start school, kindergarten, and a lot of our friends that are with us along the way go a different way.
Yeah.
Did that have any impact as you were watching some of your friends make? I'm assuming some didn't make it because of abuse or just poor choices.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up in the projects, you've seen a lot of things, you know. A lot of my friends, a lot of people that I was hanging around with, honestly, was 10 times more talented than me, you know, but they got caught up. They either got locked up for marijuana or locked up for being in the wrong place in the wrong time and just really couldn't recover or didn't know how to go a different way because this is the only way that we've seen or that we've known to be true and healthy in a sense, right? Healthy.
Right. You know, thinking back again about youth, NJ.com ran a story a couple of weeks ago, well, more than a couple of weeks ago, on the tragic losses of some high school students. They were high school athletes, lacrosse players, football players from wealthy northern New Jersey, and they hid their substance abuse. It was the fentanyl, which turned to heroin, or heroin became fentanyl. And it was tragic reading those stories. But nowhere in those tragic tales, and trust me, I'm not trying to trivialize anyone's tragedy. But cannabis was not a negative factor.
Exactly. And that really kept, and for me, it really allowed me to, one, look at myself a different way, and not continue killing myself. Cannabis is what kind of saved me from the opioid addiction. Not just consuming cannabis, cultivating cannabis as well. That's what really helped me understand what I was doing to my body and understand why I need to stop.
So you really got immersed in cannabis culture, seeing it as an alternative, right? So you were doing it not just for your physical, but as you mentioned, cultivation. So now there's this almost like a mental healing that's going on.
Yep. Yeah. And that really came definitely a mental healing and allowed me to, one, open up more, you know, be more vulnerable. Now I'm not on the drugs. Now I'm not trying to hide anything. So why not open up, you know?
So now you've dropped opioids, you kicked the opioid habit, you've had that defining moment, and now you're cultivating cannabis, you're using cannabis. You had some other lifestyle changes, right? In terms of your diet, so, because we laugh about this because we've been out to eat. Talk about some of those other lifestyle changes.
Yeah, so back in 2017, I wound up I had to get a colonoscopy because my intestines wound up becoming swollen, and I was urinating and pooping out blood for almost a week. And honestly, I was, what the doctors say, was almost on my deathbed. So from there, I had to have a colonoscopy and I had to change my diet around. I became a pescatarian. Didn't eat meat for almost 3 years. Things changed a little bit now. Didn't eat meat for almost 3 years, just straight fish. And I really started off as a paleo diet. And that's when I really dropped. I dropped about 40 pounds. Dropped about 40 pounds, felt healthy, was really getting in tune with my body and oneself. You know, started doing a lot of natural remedies. So it was definitely life changing. unfortunately I had to go through those things to be able to change my life around. But hey, what's life not without challenges, right?
Right, right. You know, you share some amazing thoughts on LinkedIn. We're not just connected as friends, but on LinkedIn, and you share some really deep thoughts sometimes. Do any of those deep thoughts come to mind now that you would want to share? Like for us that are, again, we're looking at the Super Bowl ring, right? We see the trophies and the mementos, but yet your experience was so leveling, right?
Yeah.
So it was almost like there is no difference between you and I.
Exactly.
The thin veil between life and death.
And
the great equalizer.
Yeah, and that's the thing I would like to make clear. I was never actually a football fan. I started playing football in high school, and for a lot of people, the fame got to them, the money got to them. I stayed true to myself. I was honestly the most unhappy in the NFL, to be honest with you. I did not enjoy my time. I was always depressed. I was always in pain. I was always reaching for someone else's goal and someone else's dream that wasn't mine. So it had a heavy weight on my shoulders that I had to bear, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't understand mental health. I didn't believe in it, to be honest with you, because where we came from, that was a weakness. You cannot show that or you'll be eaten up alive in the areas that we grew up in. So didn't take heed to mental health, didn't want to talk about it, and continuously was strong on the fact that nothing was wrong with me. Like that was the key. I was so strong that nothing was wrong with me. I was okay, while I was pushing everyone, to my family, to my friends, to my coaches, away at that time. And it was just like it really killed me, you know, like it was killing me slowly. And that's the thing about the NFL for some people. For me, it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a lifelong goal. It was something that I could have taken more advantage of, but I took advantage to be here today, you know, to be who I am, to be able to give this message out and tell everybody, when the money's great, that doesn't mean the happiness is great. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a life changer that I was able to leave the NFL in better spirits, while majority of the people who leave the NFL, they become in depression. I was getting out of depression. So it was definitely a mix up for me.
That is, see, to me, that's fascinating. You've introduced me to other athletes. I've known other athletes. I give big kudos to my predecessor, Scott Rutter, who actually introduced me to Athletes for Care. And these were pro athletes that have gotten involved in the cannabis culture and some in the industry. And, you know, it's fascinating. I've never got to know them like I got to know you.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of those athletes, to your point, they miss the roar of the crowd. Exactly. But you don't miss the roar of the crowd.
No, honestly, I'm living my best life right now, to be honest with you. Like, if people say it, and I was just talking to one of my partners, Jordan Reed, that we'll get into the company that we're creating, about how he got to live he's living his dream twice. I'm now living my dream, you know, like I lived someone else's dream, but now I get to live my dream and be happy. So it's definitely a weight lifted off my shoulders, and my smile is continuous.
Wow. I'm telling you, man, look, you uplift me whenever I'm around you. So I appreciate that. You. So tell me about your cannabis experience, right? So you kicked the opioids, you're cultivating, you're growing your own. How did you find that experience of growing your own and self-medicating? What was that experience like?
It was pretty interesting. After my last year in the league, I wound up getting hurt. Found a mentor. Well, first started falling in love with lavender, just as far as the natural remedies and the oils and everything like that. So I started visiting a lot of farms up in North California. Then wound up finding a mentor about Will Allen. He was a sustainable farmer of microgreens and aquaponics, and big into tilling in Milwaukee. So I would go up there weeks at a time, and he taught me how to grow microgreens. He taught me how to build my own aquaponics system. He taught me how to take care of chickens. That's why I have 30 chickens myself now. So he really got me into loving growing, loving cultivating things. A friend of mine introduced me to a good friend of mine while I was in California, and he grew up in Humble. His name is Alan Maliando. He grew up in Humble for a couple years, and we wound up coming together on the project and literally spent a year, 2 years together and just growing. He's taught me everything from all different types of medians, all different types of irrigation systems, and we did great. And from then on, I loved it. Like, I fell in love with it, and that is my passion today. And I don't see myself wanting to do anything else in life. Like, that's where I find my happiness. That's where I get lost in life, and this is where I can see myself spending my days.
So this is interesting, and I thank Joe for his question. I just saw this is interesting. So here you grew up in the projects of Staten Island. You go to the pros. You're right. I'm assuming you're in big cities. And then all of a sudden you're in this agricultural life, which now leads you to where do you live now?
I live in Chemung, New Jersey. A lot of people listen. I've never heard of it. I don't know how I ended up here. I had to tell you, it's a cool house that I have. So this is the reason why I love it. And my kids, the school systems is wonderful. But I live in Chemung, New Jersey. Behind my house, I have a horse farm. And next of it is about 13 acres. So I see nothing but green now instead of concrete. So I love it. Like, I would not go back to the city. I love the city. I love my food, but I love my peace in my space.
Wow. So what is it now? But you've taken this incredible journey. Again, I know some people say, oh, the high life. But for you, it was a real struggle. And for many that just don't open up to it, it's a struggle. It's not, again, I trivialize no one's tragedy. Mm-hmm. And so you were on the brink and you came back. Many of us, we're professionals, and we are ashamed to admit it, right? We get pushed in the office, we get pushed trying to run our own businesses. Mm-hmm. And if it's not opioids, it's alcohol.
Exactly.
Right. We find these escapes, and yet for everything that you accomplished, everything that you did, again, it was a great equalizer, right? The tragedy. So as much as people may have adored Dominique Easley, the Super Bowl champ, there's this equalizing factor of tragedy.
Yeah.
So what would you share with us today? Thoughts about your journey? Again, knowing that, it may not be an arena, but it's an office building.
Yeah.
It may not be an office building, but it may be our homes where we struggle with challenges, mm-hmm. just like you. So what would you share, learning from your journey? What would you share with us?
I would definitely say with my journey, I had the opportunity to now create a wonderful team of, I guess, I'll say one of my teammates is Jordan Reed from the University of Florida. I went to school with him, and Josh Joseph, Michael Mook, and now we are called BPH Legacy Partners. I would say definitely reach out. I have this, we are one, not because we are business partners, not because we have the same understanding of things, but we're considered brothers now. You have this, a black guy that I play football with, then you have these two white guys, a Jew and a guy from Chicago. We talk every morning. Anything that we're going through, we try to get it out to each other so we know that we have a safe place, that we have someone to come to, that we have someone to be vulnerable with. If they're not vulnerable, it makes it harder for us to be vulnerable. So it's an equal thing, you know what I mean? So it's definitely to say, be vulnerable. Like, we are in a place now that we live in a very judged world. We have social media, you have, social media, the news, everything like that, which gives you this perception of life, which makes you uncomfortable to be who you are. If you have those problems within, go talk to somebody. It can be a stranger, it can be someone that's right next door to you, it can be the man that's been sitting at the store, the front of the store for the last 40 years. Go be vulnerable with somebody. You never know what you're gonna get out. If you don't know what you're gonna get out. So why not just try it, right? The one thing that we all understand is that life does come to an end at some point. So don't miss an opportunity to better yourself.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Look, before we close, I just want to once again give a shout out to our sponsors for today. Burton, Trent Public Affairs, the law firm of Inglesino, Webster, Wyciskala, and Taylor, Curaleaf. And I want to thank Curaleaf. I attended their dispensary opening in Bordentown, New Jersey. Beautiful facility. Bridget Fonseca, God bless you. Puffin, entrepreneurs and investors. Want to give a shout out to Weeds Direct, one of our new sponsors. HBK CPAs, Argus 365 Security, Eaze, the UFCW, and Hugh Giordano, Garden State Greenhouse. So Dominique, before we wrap up, once again, just in terms of information, we want to thank you all. Please stay tuned. If you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. We got some great information out to everyone in the last newsletter. We actually put up a link to the state regs. Yes, state regs were actually issued on August 19th. We have some other huge days coming up. The next CRC meeting is Monday, September 13th. Stay tuned. Things are really going to start popping in this industry, and the CannaBusiness Association, we're going to stay on top of it for you, for all of our members. We thank you, all of the ancillary businesses. You don't have to touch the plant to be a member of the CannaBusiness Association. Definitely stay tuned because we have some special events coming. We're putting some finishing touches on it. We have some very special guests coming up in the next Lunch and Learn, so the next 2 weeks. You'll find that information on our website, and I try to get it out on LinkedIn. Follow us on social media. So Dominique, look, as we wrap up, again, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for being a cannabis advocate. Thank you for sharing what was very sensitive information. I know, look, I can tell you're comfortable with who you are because of where you are. So any finishing thoughts? I know you shared some, but please share some more.
Yeah, I definitely want to say thank you to the team that we're building. And this is for everyone else. We're going to be going for licenses out in Jersey as well. So if you need any advice, questions, answers for anything, please reach out. You have my Instagram there at Eazy91. And really just be vulnerable, man. Definitely be vulnerable and just keep on the lookout. We're coming to change. We're coming to change the cannabis world and the diversity aspect and the minority aspect.
Right. Well, Dominique, thank you so much for sharing. God bless you. Appreciate you. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us on our regularly scheduled Lunch and Learn. Every Friday at 12 noon, we bring you the best in people, not just cannabis industry, but we bring you the best in people. Dominique Easley, once again, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing everyone next Friday at noon. And again, we have a couple of very special Lunch and Learns to follow. But Dominique, peace. Love you, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Everyone, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.